Josh Berry gets to drive the 9 car this past weekend at Las Vegas. An incredible opportunity for Josh. And, Josh is, I forget sometimes how, how few of the races he's got in the Xfinity Series. I know he's been trying, in my mind, he's been doing it for a really long time, but the reality of the situation is he's got just a handful of starts. So an opportunity like this, he's drove in the Cup Series before, but this was in a really, really competitive race car and an incredible opportunity. I was on the phone with Josh a ton leading up to this, and I talked to Jeff Gordon, Rick, and everybody, Alan at HMS, in text message and so forth. And I was just really thankful for Josh to get this chance, to be asked to do it. What an honor. And now I would have not wanted to be in Josh's shoes, having no experience in the next gen car with the rack and pinion steering. I've drove the car at Daytona and a few other times, and it's completely foreign to me. And the low profile tire it's completely foreign to the typical tire that we've raced for years with the taller sidewall. So all of those things I would want as much time as you could possibly allow me to get adjusted to this car to be able to get up to speed. And heck, if I jumped in an Xfinity car today, I would need 2-4 hours before I felt like I could be on par with the other guys that we have racing here at Junior Motorsports. And so I was not envious of Josh's situation, having to get in there and just get a couple minutes of practice. But looking at the lap times, I felt like, in the first couple stages of the race, he was sort of figuring it out. And I guess there was a couple issues with the car in the third final stage that affected the performance. But anyhow, I told him, I know it didn't go the way he wanted it to go. But if they give him another opportunity to do this, next week, he needs to look at this as he's stumbled onto a pot of gold. I'm trying, instead of looking at this, so this is a deeper conversation. You heard me say, man, I would not want to be in his shoes. But you don't want to say that to Josh or anybody with that kind of opportunity. Right? You want to say, hey man, what an incredible chance to fill in for Chase Elliott and drive his race car and try to help those guys out. What an incredible opportunity, right? So trying to keep Josh understanding and going into it with a really positive approach, I think is really important, because it is like, man, it's climbing Everest, and you've never climbed any mountain in your life, right? You don't know how this equipment works. You have nothing about the altitude change and so forth, and what are the practices, and it's just a monumental task. And so, but I thought he did a good job, and I know he was disappointed, and I was too with how it went. I was sick to my stomach, but I watched every single lap time that he ran. There are some Cup teams looking at him and other drivers in the Xfinity Series, but there are teams looking at Josh saying, what does this guy have it? And so imagine here's a driver getting a chance to drive one of the best cars in the garage, and he might get to drive it once. If he's lucky, twice.
That's right.
Right? And in that sample size, people will then determine whether they want to seek, further, pursue him as a driver for their Cup car. Right? And so that could get hot or that could get really cold.
Yeah.
And I told Josh, I said, hey man, it didn't work out Sunday. If you get to drive it again, however that works out, it doesn't matter. We'll move on. You get a whole season to redeem yourself in this Xfinity car. It's not the end of the world. It's going to feel like it. It's going to feel like that you're driving the last laps you'll ever drive in a Cup car. But there's ways to, ignite that fire again and that interest in your career by going in getting in that, buckling down that Xfinity car and going out there and making it happen. And so, I would hope that he gets another opportunity to drive a really good Cup car, and I hope that it goes well. But, I cannot. So, I had my last name. I had my dad. This guy came from Nashville, and he's here. He has nobody around him other than his wife, and he's on this deal on his own. He was out in Vegas, just plopped into a Cup car. I can't imagine the pressure and the nerves.
Yeah, it's not like he has a manager and all these other people.
I grew up around this. Build him up. I grew up in this every day, and I was freaking nervous.
Right.
Driving. Right. My first race, I felt pressure, but this guy has. For anybody like that, it really has made me appreciate like the self-made driver, right? If you look at all the guys that have came up through it, and the guys that are trying, like Zane Smith and some of these other young kids that are trying to get some traction, man, they are underneath they're in the vice. Yeah, it is insane.
Right.
And they're out, it just really kind of puts it into perspective in terms of just kind of how difficult it can be mentally and emotionally. But anyways, we haven't seen an announcement on what's going to happen with the 9 car as of this recording. But for me, I'm hoping Josh is in it. I've heard a lot of other great ideas. What will they do going forward? Let's kind of step back and look at this 9 car going forward. I think there's an opportunity at COTA to try to, maybe put a road course ringer, maybe do something completely outside of the box. You would want, if I was a Cup owner, I would say, hey, man, I'm going to look at, obviously the IndyCar series and even F1, right? And who's available? What big name could I bring in here and make a big splash and create a lot of conversation, regardless of the result on the racetrack? What could I do to really get Napa a ton of exposure? So COTA's a chance. I'd say I'm kind of anxious to hear what Rick pulls out of his sleeve or out of his hat in terms of who might drive the car there.
Do you have an idea? Do you have
not a clue?
An opinion? No, not an idea who they're doing. Do you have a vote?
I don't know. No.
Yeah. What about beyond COTA? Like, to be honest with you, I've heard a couple people just like, man, Jimmy Johnson needs to go get in that car.
That's what I've heard too.
Yeah. I wonder why. So, okay. I wonder why. I wonder how that would happen. Jimmy being now the owner of Legacy Motor Club. I got to think about that one. Jimmy's an owner of another team. It is Chevrolet's, so I don't think that it would be impossible for him to unlock the gates to get into that car and I who knows who's calling them. I bet everyone is calling them about driving that car. And I've heard Corey LaJoie's name thrown around as a guy that a lot of people would love to see in that car. While I think that would be incredible for Corey, I think that would hurt Spire. Corey goes into the 9 car. They have Spire's running really good. They have stepping back just a bit. They've got Spire has put a lot more into the 7 car this year than they ever did before. They are spending more money, more effort in an effort for that car to run better and progress themselves forward. It's a very valiant effort and honorable, if you ask me. They, think about where Spire was a couple years ago. We actually sponsored them and know quite a bit about their business model. And so here they are really kind of putting a true effort into this 7 car to be competitive, and they are running well. He's running great. Going into Atlanta in a couple weeks where he almost had a chance to win there last year.
Yeah.
And so with all that momentum and that progress, if you plucked him out of there and put him in the 9 car, great for Corey. He's going to get in this 9 car and maybe go out there and win a race and show what he can do. We know he's got the talent. But I think it really puts Spire in a difficult situation to continue to progress. All right, that they could actually regress a little bit And then when Corey comes back, he's eventually going to have to get back in that car. It's nowhere near where it could be. And so I worry, I think that I worry about that just a little bit.
Remember when David Reagan took over the 18
Yep.
when Kyle broke his leg, and he was running like what, top 10, top 15, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes back to, I think it was front row, and obviously doesn't have the same success. I don't know.
Yeah.
That reminded me when you mentioned that.
Well, I just worry that it would hurt Spire more than and it would be detrimental to what they're trying to accomplish. This is the year that they really said, you know what, we're going in. We're gonna spend the money to be one of the teams, right? And so to do anything that might not allow them to net the result for them. So when they commit as a team, they're running a very, very tight budget. All right. And when they commit these dollars, they need to know that the car is going to net a specific result every single week. They're writing the check on Monday to pay for it on Sunday, right? And so they have to get these results. Corey's very well aware of where this car needs to run. And so you take him out of there, and the person that goes in can't get those results. They have to spend less. They have to draw back on what they're willing to do. It could make things difficult. They have a plan, and that would upset the plan.
But Rick has gotten creative before, and I will just say, the time when you were out of the car, he did something that none of us saw coming. He put Jeff Gordon in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying, I know that's, I don't know how likely or unlikely, but there's that idea. I mean, he's been creative, and he can also do deals with Spire as he's quite close to them, and Dickerson and
Yes.
TJ, that he can provide them drivers and buy out rides and pay stuff. I mean, he can do a number of things that we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I hope Josh gets another opportunity, but I will be. I think that they could do some really exciting things while Chase is coming, fighting and working his way back. So it'll be interesting to see.